All right, what's going on, everybody? It is another Ask Me Anything happy hour. I am poolside with the beverage. Joseph's got a nice beverage, but he's on the phone, of course. But we're all here ready to answer your questions, so make sure you get them ready as you're logging in, and we will knock them out. Anyone else got something fun they're drinking besides water, Red Bulls? Nothing? No.
No.
All right.
Hydration fluid.
Yes, well, that's always a good thing. All right, well, I'm going to go right to this video, and we'll be back after this. All right, back at it. Going live today for another Ask Me Anything happy hour, live out here in Buffalo, New York, where it is a balmy 92 degrees. The pool is a balmy 94 degrees. Don't ask how that happened. And the beverage, about 32 degrees. That being said, we're going to kind of go around and have everybody do their Brady Bunch intro, and then we're going to answer whatever questions you have. So throw them in the comments, and we'll be back. All right, Steven. What's happening out there in Florida? I love your new setup, man. It almost looks like it looks like you got a waterfall behind you, and like those are like the natural trees.
It looks like he's some kind of therapist to me. It looks like he needs a couch. Someone's going to sit down next to him. He's going to talk to Steven.
Actually, in Hawaii, at a waterfall. How about that? No.
Where's Shauna? Before Steven introduces himself, we need to pretty this up a little bit. Where's the ladies? Where's Hannah? Where's Shauna?
I don't know where Gabby is. I don't know where anybody.
Gabby said she wasn't going to be here, so she's okay. Yeah. Anyhow, Steven, back to you and your beautiful new setup.
Oh no! So yeah, just hanging out down here in Florida with the number 5 ranked Florida State Seminoles. Thank you very much, baby. We got football back, so I'm super pumped for that. Hope everyone had a good Labor Day. And Sean is here on the outside, she says in the chat box. So we're ready to answer your questions. Get those things coming.
All right. Joe, what do you got going on today?
Chris is outside. I'm inside in the air condition. I got a little Jack and Ginger going on and answering phones and answering questions. And here I am.
All right. Firing it up. Well, Jack, dude, that Mick Ultra ain't got nothing on you today.
Oh, I know. My goodness. How about you, Jason?
Yeah, I have nothing exciting going on like you guys, but I love that poolside. I enjoy that weather, man. We got it down here all year round, so enjoy it while you got it.
Yeah, well, there's not much of this left.
It might snow tomorrow. You never know.
Hey, did you hear that Brighton's getting snow? Brighton got their first snowfall up in the mountain.
Oh, well, we're not too far behind.
Did you know Mammoth just closed 3 weeks ago?
I know. My friend Ron was riding there all summer long. Crazy. They had jumps and rails up the entire summer.
That's so wild.
Wow. Crazy stuff. All right, Carson, what's happening down in Dana Point, California?
Yesterday, my dad and I actually just did our next couple episodes of Generational Gains, the podcast.
Nice.
If you guys haven't found it yet, it's on all podcast platforms. We talk about all things money, real estate, business. Infinite banking was actually our main topic yesterday. So we had some of his thoughts from it, from the different cars and things he's purchased and investments he's done. And then I kind of gave some, ideas and explanations of what it all was for everyone. So that was our episode yesterday. That should be coming out this week. And besides that, I mean, not much going on, just hanging out. Yeah.
Nice. And Craig, who's been masterminding just the most incredible software package, which I couldn't stop talking about today on Wealth Webinar. We just gave him like a glimpse, as Brent would say, the pimple of the elephant's ass. That's what we did today. Wow. So what else? Where's the rest of the elephant? When's that coming out?
The elephant is in process. So I've been spending a lot of time working on that. Kind of like this guy and this guy. People are here. Just lots of calls, trying to help as many people as we can. It's always really hard because you got to do it backwards. But yeah, the lab has been busy, crunching numbers, building spreadsheets, software. It's great stuff.
Love it.
That didn't last very long. We talked about it not even 5 days ago. We're like, no, we're going to keep it under wraps. It's too good to let it out there. And it's already
I didn't let it out. I promise you we didn't let it out. We literally dipped a toe in. Just the tip.
Well,
I've used some of the conversation with around Dave Ramsey and, Snowball Method and said, hey, This is what's actually being left on the table. Not only are they leaving $25,000, $30,000 on the table that would be in their cash value, and the cherry on top, and less months. Just saying, we ran it mathematically, and that's a fact, right?
Yeah,
so if I talk to a Ramseyite, I am sharing that at least.
Love it. That's exactly what we did.
Awesome.
We literally showed the Ramsey method, and then we said, here's what you're missing out on. It was wild, dude. It was really fun.
Now, I'm appreciative of this team. That's what I know. There's some brilliance in many different aspects coming from this. And Craig in the spreadsheets, Joe in his clicking and popping. We got it all here. Maggie in the energy, the youngest money mentor, and now a generational gains podcast host. Man, good stuff.
Chris, are you really in a pool, or is that a virtual background? You're just in the office.
Oh, it's just a virtual background. I figured I'd take my shirt off to kind of make sure it looked real. Pretty nice virtual background.
If you move out of the screen for a while,
One of those new virtual backgrounds that you can go 360 degrees.
Show them the slide. Show them the slide.
And then you can go back. Have you guys seen this new technology? This is AI at its best.
You laugh. I actually have that.
If you move out of the screen for a second, Craig could be in the pool with you. There she is.
Wow.
I'm here.
Awesome. Yes. All right. Well, let's see, Shauna. You want to run the questions coming in, or should we hit yours? Who's bringing Halloween costume? I'm down for a Halloween costume. I got the perfect one.
Yeah, we'll kick it off with my question. My question was, how many tickets for the Vegas Mastermind were left? And
3.
There was 3. But then also, I was doing a little research today, and there's a lot of like Halloween parties happening at that time. So I also feel like everybody should pack a Halloween costume because it's like the Halloween weekend. So
love it.
All right.
So what are we going to be?
Albert Einstein.
Yeah, you got a whole closet full of costumes that you can pack.
Well, once I try that muscle suit on, I might have to. That thing weighs like 60 pounds. I might have to pay the extra baggage and bring that thing down. Greg, I love your new chair, man. That's a beautiful.
Yeah, Chris, I'm just hanging out in the office here today.
I look like you shrank a little, Craig. You're not fitting in that chair the way you used to.
He's been watching the movie Elf too much.
This is what happens when you leave your video call. Craig takes a snapshot of your background.
I love that. Okay, so Christoph is saying, if I have a policy with a death benefit of $2.5 million, is that pretty much the limit I would be able to eventually take out on the policy loan? Sorry.
If you make it to 121 years old.
No, it's only starting off at 2.5 million, right? It's going to be what, 20 by that time?
Could be. So how it works is the death benefit, yes, would be the max you could ever take a loan for, but you'd have to have cash value that matches the death benefit. So in order to take a loan for 2.5 million, you'd have to have cash value that collateralizes the amount of the death benefit. So it goes off of your cash value because that's what collateralizes the loan. Your death benefit is just what you're borrowing against, but only up to the amount of cash value you have. So, Christoph, you'd have to actually look at the cash value in the policy to know how much you're going to be able to use.
And there's always a window between those two numbers too. Like that 2.5 million death benefit, your cash value is not 2.5 million for sure. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a smaller multiple of that.
Absolutely.
And that really only counts 1 second before you stop breathing.
Correct.
So that's why we don't talk about the death benefit.
You don't? I do every day. Every day. That guaranteed cherry on top, man. If you love people and you love something, you got to talk about that.
It's certainly important to talk about. I totally agree.
It's there.
All right. So Show has a question. I already have a whole life policy, and I would like to know if I can convert it and the cash value earned to the policy for infinite banking.
Oh, my gosh. I wish we could find that video from last week's Wealth webinar. So what I did in last week's Wealth webinar is I took one of my old whole life policies that I bought before I knew what the infinite banking concept was. It was just a standard off the shelf whole life that would be similar to the one I always reference of your broke ass brother-in-law selling you. So what I showed you is that after time, that policy will perform perfectly. Like, I don't know how old your policy is, Show, but there's no reason to replace the policy you have. There's the reason to keep that policy is far greater than replacing it. It's just, you just have to look at it. I mean, if you want, we could do a review of it. You would just get an in-force illustration, send it over to us. But I would be hard pressed to tell you to get rid of that. I don't know what company it's with, but if we can put that maybe in the chat, that YouTube video from last week's wealth webinar, I think that would be really valuable for show.
So I guess it depends. Sometimes if they're very old, you might be in a good position. But in that case, would you ever consider 1035ing even like a good policy? Like, is there any pros or cons to that?
I mean, yeah, I mean, a bunch of people 1035 exchanged Ohio National policies when they demutualized. So like if you had like a State Farm whole life, or I think Prudential used to have whole lives, those policies will never perform from a cash value standpoint. Anytime an insurance company demutualizes and goes public, like the dividends are just going to go straight to the tank and everything changes. And I've seen some of those old Prudential whole lives and they're not worth.
What if there was an automated?
Sorry, guys. I'm trying to find the Zoom.
Oh.
Or the.
Who's that voice?
It was an ad. I'm trying to find the replay.
Anyone else want to feed into this one a little bit?
I think it depends on having the in-force illustration and know what that looks like. Right. I think we'd have to have more facts is what I'm thinking. Anybody else?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, and you could probably end up using it if it's got some cash value. So if that's something that's a possibility, you might as well just use it. But until that in-force illustration is presented, we don't really have a lot of detail on what that policy looks like, how it can be used.
I totally agree. Hey, somebody else wanted to say hi.
Oh, that's
Oh my God, look at that.
Lazy cat. Oh, that's not lazy cash.
Hi, Bibi.
Say hi, Bibi.
Oh, Vivi.
Hi.
Amazing. And there's somebody back there with noodles. Bunch of noodles.
Pick her up there.
Aww.
Get a noodle. Go get a noodle for me and you.
Looks like an octopus back there.
I think I put the video to the webinar.
Have you ever seen a green screen that can do that? Isn't that pretty incredible technology? Like you could have your baby swimming around and somebody throwing noodles in the green screen. The technology is badass.
Someone mentioned it wasn't the same person, but what about with Fidelity? So I think it's similar. Like if you had a Fidelity.
Oh, Meg Coleman. Hey, what's up, Meg? Yeah, you definitely probably would want us to review a Fidelity whole life. I remember those old Fidelity whole lives. They're not the Fidelity investment whole lives. Those are it's a different Fidelity company. And I've seen a couple of them. You all right? Hang on one sec. Child almost drowning.
Oh, God.
Okay. Anyway, all good. She got tangled up in the noodle. But yeah, so just have us review them for both of those, for show and also Meg. I think the best thing to do is just don't hit any buttons. Have us review both of those policies, in-force illustrations, and we can tell you whether it makes sense to get rid of them or keep them.
Okay, another one. So I was asking, in your multifamily investment video around minute 65, you mentioned you couldn't add to your previous policies because you were past the 2-year window. What 2-year window are you referring to?
Yeah, so what I'm talking about there is those old policies. So my old whole life policies. So how it works, and this is pretty simple to understand, not the policies we build today, but if you had a regular whole life, there's a period of 2 years that you can make additional PUA deposits. And if you don't make additional PUA deposits in those first 2 years, the insurance company will take that option away. So what we always tell people to do is if you have a whole life and it's newer, make sure you at least put an extra $10 per month or $120 per year into the paid up additions rider so that the insurance company can't take that away. So that's what I was referring to there, is that old policy I had. I couldn't put any additional money in because it had passed that period of time where I didn't put the extra PUAs in.
All right.
Always learning something. I did not know that. Who else didn't know that? Anybody? No?
Jason, listen, here's the good news. In 20 years from now, actually 19 years or 18 years for you. Actually, how many years has it been? 2, 3?
2, yeah.
2 years. So in 18 years from today, you'll know all this.
Yeah. No, I'll accelerate that a little faster. It's available. There's a lot of videos I think you can watch. There's this dude that does a lot of videos. He puts out a couple a week. Yeah. There's a bunch of Nauglists out there. They call themselves. It's weird.
What's that site?
I think that's
All right.
oh wait, no, here we go. We got Julie. Julie's got a HELOC question. So Julie Davidson says, hold on, I can't tell if there was an pay off HELOC with life insurance, have other money short term in HELOC to hold down 9.75 HELOC that I'm paying 9.75% interest. Variable will continue to go up. I originally bought a condo with HELOC. Can I put money in and take out to pay the HELOC?
First of all, your HELOC needs to be the one pot. I don't know how much your mortgage is. I don't know how much is coming into the house. But paying off the HELOC with the life insurance, that you don't want any cash value in the life insurance because that's going to make you money. The money should go into the HELOC because you're paying off interest there. So that's first. But when you use the leftover HELOC, let's put that into an investment to cover that 9.75. So what was this? What is there a second part of that?
So I think,
did I answer it?
Basically, it's almost like doing the process backwards. Like, let's say that you have, like, I know sometimes we utilize a HELOC to do the banking, and now it's almost like using the banking to take care of a HELOC is what I'm thinking.
She bought a condo. She bought a condo with the HELOC. So you used it for investment. That rent should be coming back into the HELOC. If you have cash value in your policy, that should go into the HELOC. So you're not paying the interest on the HELOC.
Or
and then what? Go ahead, Craig.
Well, I mean, the other thing they could look at doing is take the cash value from the life insurance, put it to work at say 12%, run that back into the HELOC, pay the loan interest off on the policy every year.
Well, that's how can we put everything in the HELOC, because there might be more than just the cash value. Take the cash value and the extra in the HELOC, put it all together into that investment to come back in. Yeah. If I didn't state that, that's what I kind of meant.
Yeah. So I think we came from the same place. You just put the money in the HELOC and then back out, right?
Yeah. Because I want the cash value. I don't want the cash value wasting inside the policy because we're paying money on that money that we actually have. So, And then when we grow more money in the HELOC, if we said 20,000, 30,000 extra, well, let's move that into the next investment and get more money coming into the HELOC also. Chris?
I like it.
Dude, I mean, come on. He's Mr. HELOC. How am I going to answer anything on that? Of course, that's right. I mean, between Craig and Joe, like, I'm just going to go on mute anytime there's a HELOC question. Like, I mean, I get it, but like they got it on another level.
When Joe's arms start going around in circles, we know that's really getting answered.
We know it's working. Yep.
We know it's working.
Remember, wheels on the bus go round and round.
Yes. That's how I think about. When I start talking about, I do this in my own living room. Joe's not even around.
All right. Bankonomics says, I think there is a good chance some dividends will go up next year due to the economics of insurance companies making more money in short-term bonds. Have you heard anything or your thoughts on this?
Well, first off, I love the name of his YouTube channel, Bankonomics. How freaking cool is that, right? Cash flow accelerator. Like, that would get me just to check a page out. So kudos on that. Great name. I love the logo and everything you got there. I talk about this a lot. I talk about dividends, and Stephen and I were literally just doing that on the Wealth webinar today. We were talking about the history of dividends and how we've been on about a 34, Stephen. I can't remember what you showed, but it was about, actually, I think a little longer than 34-year decline in dividends because of the interest rate cycle, and how we've gone from high interest rates in the 80s back down to low interest rates to now start reverting back up to higher interest rates, you know, with the Fed raising rates. And I do truly believe we're going to remain in a heightened interest rate environment for I don't know how long, until they decide to call it a recession and things get really bad when they drop them down. But nonetheless, insurance companies historically, I mean, One America, for example, their portfolio is 58% bonds. And if you know how bonds work, if they're buying bonds right now, they're buying them at a low price. but a high yield. And if they're in the inverted yield curve right now, sorry to get technical, but in inverted yield curve, they're able to buy T-bills, 2-year treasury bonds, 1 year or even sub 1 year T-bills at ridiculous yields. So they're padding their coffers right now. They're literally laddering bonds like it's going out of style, and they're probably lending money at higher interest rates. So what's happening today with higher rates for insurance companies is temporarily, it's going to be kind of a little bit of pain for insurance companies, but long term, it's going to literally give them the tailwind they've been waiting for 30 some years to then make those interest rates, over the next, 10, 20, 30 years with treasuries. So I agree with Bankonomics that we will see rising dividends probably into the unforeseeable future because of this current environment we're in right now. I think it's freaking awesome. And I often wondered if I'd ever see the days, like I did back in the early years of my Wall Street when dividends were crap. I mean, dividend interest, the crediting rates were over, I don't want to get this wrong, but 7 or 8% back in the early 2000s. And now, as we know, they're like 5.2, the highest of 6. So to get back to those rates would be really cool. And not only that, with how many people we've gotten in at the low dividends and the illustrations are being shown at 34-year lows, I mean, everything helps all the people that we're helping now. It's pretty freaking cool.
Good time to be privatized banking is what Chris is saying. It's a good time to be privatized banking. If you missed it, just in case you missed it. And what's up, Shane? Shane's got a couple policies. Started with a HELOC, Joe, just so you know, in Velocity Banking when I first met him, and now he's got 2 policies in force. So go ahead, Shauna.
Love it. Shane's saying, what is the best way to use a sole proprietor LLC on your taxes when it gets income from a 1099 at the end of the year? Just flow the income and expenses into my 1040, or is there a better way? Asking because I have a call with my tax guy in the morning. P.S. I let you all off the hook because you are not a tax advisor.
Well, I think there might be one correction that'll help us answer this. And we can't give tax advice because we are not CPAs, so no legal, no tax advice. So everything we say is just our opinion. Don't take it to the bank. Don't use it as advice. Make sure you consult with your CPA. Now that I got the disclaimer out of the way. So when you were saying a sole proprietor LLC, I think you just mean a sole member LLC, which is a complete pass-through. So it's different than a partnership LLC or different than an S-election LLC. Not to get complicated, but if you're just a sole member LLC, basically any income that runs through that LLC is going to flow through to your personal taxes. But one thing you could be doing right now, because we're only in September, I almost said August, we're in September, you could be really doing some tax planning for the end of the year. Like, do you have any trips you're going to take? You got any board meetings you need to do for your company? Is there anything that you need to buy or expenses? So getting, some of those expenses wrapped up for, the fourth quarter might really help you, because anything you can reduce income in that sole member LLC while it's in the LLC, anything you do to reduce that, like, a coaching program with the accelerator coaching, or didn't mean to hit below the belt there, but you get it. Like, if you paid for some coaching, that would reduce your income in your sole member, and then that pass through at the end of the year, which does then hit your 1040, would be reduced. So I think that could be one way to look at it, but I would definitely consult with your CPA tomorrow, but just ask him, what are some things we can be doing tax planning wise before the end of the year that will help mitigate the amount that flows through to my 1040? Because once it hits your 1040, you're done screwed. You even like with me and Joe with our trust structures, we have income that passes through to our 1040, and it's kind of like there's no playing with that once it hits the 1040.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, it's gone. You just give it to the government. I got some hard news today about my 2022 taxes, and it was all 1040 related. So you want as little to flow through to that 1040 as possible. Does that make sense, Shane?
And
I think the other piece of this. Oh, go ahead, Joe.
I said it depends on how much he's paying in taxes there too. So
Correct.
if he's above 40,000, well, then that might put you into the 1041 tax structure. So it depends on kind of what your income is on that side too.
Well, Jason knows his situation, I think. So it sounded like it anyway. So maybe, he could kind of advise a little bit more on that. What were you saying, Craig?
I was just going to say too, it kind of depends on what kind of income that 1099 is. You know, if you're a realtor, you know, the kind of income we have from 1099, it can be treated differently. So some of the trust structures that you're talking about, there's some creative things you can do, but if you're a licensed real estate agent, there's some fancier things you have to do. So it kind of depends too on what type of income that 1099 is coming from.
Yeah, 1099, W-2, K-1.
Yeah,
Well,
he did
yeah,
mention using the Augusta rule too, but
That's
I
great.
think, Shane, if you can tell us what your income is from too, that would be helpful as we're still chatting about it. Continue, Craig. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
yeah, I mean, it's just going to say, you know, if you're a licensed real estate agent, there's certain things you can do versus, say, 1099 income from a PMC deal or something like that. That can be dealt with differently.
Oh, I love this. Shane, one final thing. Drew came in, and this is a good point to bring up to your CPA, is he said if you're above 50,000 in profit in the sole member LLC, you might be able to retroactively convert it to an S corp, and that could have some tax advantages.
FCAT in the house, Mr. Felix.
And Shane, I don't know if there's a simple answer, like talking to your CPA, getting different options. This is something I've been literally looking at for the last 6 months myself, between trust structures, between changing my structure, between investing in coaching, things I could use to lower the income, right? So there's a lot. I'm even using the second policy that I'm creating for my family with my wife to literally pay my 2022 taxes, right? Because I don't want to give the money to Uncle Sam, say, here, take all this. That money's gone forever. I want the opportunity cost, the guarantee that I'm going to earn on it, to pass it through. Yes, it's not a huge spread, but that's the keeping part of our wealth. Like, how do we keep all the money in our family for the big major purchases? And to me, the taxes for me make sense, right? Before I'm going to a private money club or something else. Mm-hmm. So that's just another additional piece to maybe think about when you're talking to your CPA tomorrow.
Yeah. And it sounds like he's doing a lot of what the rest of us are doing in the group. Like he mentioned, Joe, you've been a lot of help with the forklift and possibly the semi-investing. So the Augusta rule, I think, is a good one to use for the, you know, your monthly meeting, the way that we always kind of get taught about it from a tax specialist that we have on. And then he has a W-2 of 180 and a group of side hustles of 30 to 40. So he's trying to ramp it all up, you know, by being by the campfire with us. So
yeah, I mean, there's two things that I always look at, you know, and Shauna and I and our bookkeeper talk about it a lot around this time, as we start saying, okay, where can we spend more money that will make us more money? What are our KPIs or key policy indicators showing us that we can pump more money into that will give us revenue, maybe not revenue today, but deferred revenue into the future? And, you know, for us, it's always marketing and masterminds, like going to a mastermind, although that seems like it's an expense. Like, you know, somebody going to the Experience Mastermind, like that's a $5,000 write-off right out of the hole for the ticket there, plus the airfare, plus any expenses you have there. That's a complete write-off to the company. But while you're there, you know, you could meet somebody that could generate 100, 200, 300,000 for you in your side hustles next year, but that's a deferred thing. But if you're not there, you won't. So like, for example, this year we signed up for a mastermind called the Family Mastermind. So myself, Shauna, and Steven are going out to Tampa for the Family Mastermind. And we know we're going to build and make relationships that are going to pay us huge dollars in the following years. But if we weren't there, if we didn't spend that money on that mastermind, we'd never realize those extra, you know, that extra income from the relationships that build. So sometimes you just got to think out of the box.
Yeah.
Yeah. One other thing that came to my mind as we're talking through this. So, and Jason, maybe, you know, I don't know if Shane has kids, but perhaps Shane could pay his kids to be part of the business, you know, modeling or whatever it might be, and take that money, stick it in a Roth or something like that. So put your kids to work.
Yeah, those are the simple ones that I've done, was the Augusta rule, paying my daughter, travel for masterminds. I've paid for coaching, you know, and stuff like that. I also would love to learn like a little bit more of things like, or like, you know, software, anything like that. You know, supplies that you might need for your side hustles. But it is kind of tough when you aren't really kind of running like a full-fledged business, being like what should I be doing with this?
They're great questions. This is powerful information, though, for everybody that's listening. I mean, this is what, it's first, you're in the business of making money, and then you're in the business of banking. And now how do you keep more? We still pay Uncle Sam what we need to pay, right, for our taxes. But at the same time, you don't want to be overpaying. Like, how do you minimize that? How do you start finding some of those other, ways that you can reduce it through, like we're saying, spending money on yourself, investing between your ears, putting yourself in masterminds, doing things that can scale the business in the future, right? Like you're saying, meet people for Shane that he can increase his 30 or 40,000 in side hustles to equal what he's earning or more, right? Like that's his goal. I know that's his long-term goal, is the freedom piece. So
yeah, absolutely. Jackie said, in our 70s and no debt, but want to double $50,000 in 1 year's time. Is that possible?
Are you thinking because you're in your 70s, like you can't double your income? Is that what they're asking?
In our 70s, no debt. Maybe they have $50,000 to invest and they are hoping to double it in.
Can I get this one, please?
Oh yeah, please go ahead, Stephen.
Okay. Buy a ticket for the Experience Mastermind in Vegas. Drop it on red or black, and pray.
Well done, Staggy.
Snaggy with the answer.
All right, I'm going back to my world.
That's hilarious, though. But let's see. I mean, should we chat about that? Taking $50,000 that you have no debt, and like how you can. I don't know.
What's the rule of wealth? If you seek unrealistic returns, your wealth will flee you.
Yeah.
I don't know in a realistic way outside of going out and really hustling and maybe an active business, real estate, where you could really double your money like that. I mean, just passively or through something, I'm not aware of anything that would do that. Maybe Joe has some ideas though.
Forklifts would get you anywhere between 16 to 25,000. Semis would get you right around the 30 to 36,000. ROI would come in at, well, you can't even get into Rob and Nicole. Those are those two. Forklifts.
So Joe, maybe 70%. What you're saying.
Yeah, I can get 72%. That's 76% per month. So $3,000 a month with that 50 with the semi.
And I think one of the things is like, right. So we're probably thinking like, I have $50,000. How can I double it in 1 year? And then I would say there's not a way to double it probably in 1 year's time, but the one thing that everybody on this call can solve is like where that $50,000 is preserved and, and at least not going to go away.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's progress equals happiness too. Like if they know what Jackie, if you know what your goals are, like you say, hey, we want a 50 and we want to double it. Like, would you be pretty stoked if you were like able to do what Joe just outlined, right? And you're also preserving and protecting it for the future. And you start building that over time. Because everything we teach is think long-term. We want to solve what's right in front of us. But like Steven said, if you're coming in and that's the goal and that's the energy, someone will take your 50 grand. They will tell you they can double it and you will say goodbye to it forever. Right. So that's
the other piece I'd want to know is why do you want to double it? What are you trying to accomplish with that? Because if we can look at taking that 50 and put it in at, say, an investment at 15%, whatever it might be, and you can earn $600 a month. Does that solve part of your problem? I don't know, but what are you trying to do by doubling your 50? What is it you want to get out of that?
Obviously, the one question is they want more money, but the second question is like, I don't want to lose a penny of my 50,000.
Yeah, that's the best response. What Craig said is, what's the ultimate reason for this? Like, why do you want to double that? What's the actual problem, or what's the actual goal? And that'd be a much better conversation. Seriously.
Yeah, because from there we might go into, what do you have any equity in your house? Could we use something to solve that problem? Until we know what that is, we can't really tell you what to do next.
Cannonball!
The water over here is nice and warm, though, guys.
Oh, you got it. That's awesome.
Oh God.
Oh,
To that point, though, I'm gonna put our round robin link in the chat, though. And
Craig's in the pool now too.
I know.
Yeah.
I saw that. That's
His shirt's still on though.
Craig set up, man. He's going to take that shirt off, Craig.
all right. Julie is saying, any tax benefits to have my business pay my whole life insurance as a benefit? Would I personally have to pay taxes on that, or would my business pay taxes on the contribution?
Tax that.
Yeah.
So
it would
there's
be
two ways to answer this. So Julie, we get this a lot about, company-owned policies. The only reason a business should own a policy is that all the money you want to fund the policy with is inside the business. Because if the money's already in the business accounts, to get the money outside the business, no matter what structure it is, it's a distribution or a salary or something. So taking the money out of the business, creates a taxable event in most cases. So by having the policy owned by the business, it really just becomes a balance sheet item. It's literally just taking money from the business checking account, putting it into the whole life. And on the balance sheet, it shows up right underneath cash in bank. It shows up as cash value. So that's the reason to do that. The second part of it is, I think, were you asking about like taxes? You wouldn't. If you took the money out of the company, you got to pay tax on it and then put the money into the policy. But if you do the policy in the company name, then the policy can be funded with company assets, company dollars, and then it's not taxable. I always tell people, can you get a tax deduction for funding the premiums with your business? Yes, but then on the back end, your growth and your death benefit are potentially taxable. So don't do that. Just use after-tax dollars going in. So that's the best stab I can take at that one. Craig, man, when did you get a cool house looking like that?
I just moved in last week. I don't know if you've seen my new office, but yeah, I'll have you over for dinner sometime.
Please do, man. It looks just like my place. Wow.
Oh, anyway, I mean, it definitely was a model that I based it off of.
Model home? Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then I sold the
The
plans.
price
to
was
Jason.
right, Craig? The price was right.
Oh,
Love it.
Yeah, and Jason, I don't know if you're done with your build out, but yeah, it's looking nice.
Yeah, thanks. It's coming along nicely. Mine came with the red noodle. I see yours didn't come with a noodle. So we'll get you one.
Oh man,
These
these green screens are great.
You don't even need a green screen anymore.
I can't believe Joe's not more thrilled by this. If you just disappear from the screen for a second, Joe gets real excited. And you come back, do this a couple times, come back with different faces. Joe gets pretty. Look, he's getting red already. He loves it.
not picking on me.
Not picking on you. I love the laugh, man.
All right. Next.
Joe is asking, can you front load a policy? For example, if I open a $10,000 policy and I do not have all of the cash, could I put down $5,000 and make monthly payments of $500 a month to have access to the money? Great question.
Yeah, really good one. We've been talking about this a lot. Who wants to take this one?
Is he referring to $500 a month for forever now, or just for the first year? Is that the question?
I think they're talking about like putting 10. They said open up 10,000 policy. So maybe let's consider it like they want to dump in 10 grand year one, but they don't have all of it to do at once. They got $5 grand now upon issue, and then they want to make.
Yeah, so like beyond the premium, they have a premium, but they also have this 10K they want to split up. Yeah.
I don't think they know about the dump rule. So I think they're just talking about a policy, putting $5,000 in and then continue it to add up to $10,000 by the end of the year. So we can build it any way you want, how you want it to be designed. But there's different ways and specific things that we can do for dump-ins and how much you're allotted for monthly minimums and maximums too. So just by answering that question, yes, we can do anything you want, but it really depends on your income and what you would qualify for.
And I go back to Craig's earlier statement that it really depends on the problem you're solving. because that may or may not solve the problem you're looking to solve or the opportunity that's in front of you, right? You might learn, like, you still, depending on where you're at, show how you're thinking about this. You might still be thinking of this as a cost versus as an appreciating asset and somewhere that you're just moving your money through. Because we're going to teach you what it is to move your money versus, again, we got to know what the problem is we're solving, and then we can kind of give you better information and educate from that point.
I mean, just with these numbers, I look at it and I just come up with $1,000 a month. You put in 1,000, take out 700 to 800, and use that on a monthly basis as you go. So, I mean, that's just what I got from those numbers, creating a dump and the monthlies. So it's kind of simple.
And I've got, Sean, if you want to bring Huckleberries up, I've got a couple, at least 2 or 3 things to say about his or her question, right?
Yes.
So Huckleberry, thanks for that question. I love it because, one, congratulations. It means that you're getting approved, right? It means that you will have a policy that you can use for banking. And one of the questions I always ask folks is, do the wealthy have more options, just in general, right? And this is something where once you have the policy, once you're using it for banking, you're protecting your family, right? You already have the guaranteed legacy piece. You have the ability to use it for banking, and you're able to go back. Like, if you're, depending on why you're table rated, like if it's a health reason, right? You can go back every year, or if it's some other reason and you can show documentation that that's changed, you can actually get approved or you can get approved for a better rating later on. So table rating just means that you have standard rating, then below standard is table. So that's a simple answer to it, but that gives you options. That means you were approved. So that's not a bad thing.
I love it. I also missed one as I was scrolling up. So I'm going to kind of come back to it. So Jamal asked, can you keep adding contributions to the policy, or is there a limit each year? Which, this is a great question.
Really good question.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to the last question we just had. But I mean, Joe said it best: we can structure the policy however you want, and there are minimums and maximums for how much you can do that with and what you can apply for and get approved to do. But there are minimums and limits. So, like, for example, they also asked in the last question, like $500 a month, if they could put that in the policy consistently. So if we set this policy up for $500 a month, we're structuring this policy to be as efficient as humanly possible, lowest cost, highest cash value growth, depending on the situation. And so when we're structuring this, if $500 a month is your premium, or whatever this number is, X amount of dollars is your premium, that's typically the max, typically the limit. So you wouldn't be able to do more than that. If you wanted to do more, there are a couple ways we can figure out how to get more money in the policy. Maybe that's getting another policy. Maybe that's paying back any cash value loans. We can find a way to work out the situation the best we can. But to answer your question, there is a limit every year, and that just depends on your premium. Typically, your premium is your max.
Yeah, I think a lot of times when, at least in my experience, when people are asking this question, they're trying to solve too many problems with one policy. So if we think about what are you trying to do right now, take your cash flow that you have available now, let's make the best policy to solve that problem. And in a way, you can have more policies. You can create another policy 6 months from now or 9 months from now. So we're not limited on the number of policies that we have. So let's try to figure out what you want to do now. Let's get that policy set in the correct way. And if in a year you need more, then we'll get you another policy. That's kind of how I would approach things.
Yeah,
like
here's two facts for you, Jamal. I love the question too, and all the answers that were just given. It's one, can you put 16 ounces of liquid in an 8-ounce container, right? That's the first one. Like, we build them around where you're at today, financially, mentally, the whole thing. Like, we design a container that goes right around that as tight as possible. So when you need more and you have more wealth to put back in, we're going to help you design that second one. 91% of the people we help will start a second policy within 12 months. Right? It's something I talk about all the time. Like, I've helped people design their second, their third, their fourth, or fifth within 6 months. Because once they see it in motion, in action, then they're fans, right? Like, once they get past that little bit, I don't know, it might work, it might not work. Once they know it works, it's all in for a lot of people. So
I'm going to throw another curveball into the mix. So how about when you get the phone call and they say, oh, well, I have this illustration and I can put in anywhere between $5,000 and $20,000 for next year. So that means that agent put a whole bunch of term on that policy so that you might be able to put some more money in.
How many, we see this a lot, Joe. I'm so glad you're bringing this up. Like, this is something I can't stand that's happening with agents in this industry right now, or wannabe agents, because that is so detrimental for the performance of the policy if they don't have that ability, like the ability to fund it, and they got all this extra term. Dude, thank you for bringing that up.
Who wins, Chris? Who wins on that? It's a what? It's a commission play. That's all it is.
I get in fights with people over that. Like, it's so ridiculous how some of these things are built by some of these other companies and agents. It really is crazy.
I don't understand.
I
think this is what Greg talks about, building extra seats, right?
This is stupid, man. I think we should start up a fight club, an IBC fight club next year.
The IBC Facebook group.
Seriously, isn't it though? Yeah, that's a
Joe's strong, man. Joe picked me right up in my chair, my bar stool up in Indianapolis. Just I was sitting there and the dude just picked me up for no reason.
Chair and all. He's holding on the bar. He's like, you just picked me up, chair and all. I go, yep.
Yeah.
I think what we're seeing in the industry is, a lot of people think this is easy money. They think it's easy business. They're regular agents, so they know how to maximize their comp and what they make, but they don't understand fully the infinite banking concept. They just call it the infinite banking concept. I mean, I don't mean to pick on the one that has IBC in its name, but like, that's them. They play off of IBC, but they know nothing about IBC. They don't teach IBC. They literally are just slinging product, and they're trying to find ways to maximize comp in what they're doing. Like you mentioned, Joe, is they're screwing the client. They're screwing the client on a hope and a dream. Just build the policy to what the client can do today without having any troubles. And then if we got to add on, then add on later. That's the most effective way to do it. That's what Nelson Nash taught. That's what we teach. And anything else is just a commission play. It really is. I hate it.
I've seen our policies. I've seen our policies, Chris, like $7 to $12 off the MEC line. Is that not as efficient as you can be? Right at that line. That's where we build them to. And that's what people have to understand. There is no leeway. That's why there is a maximum, because you're maximum efficiency. We don't want to build any leeway. That's less for you.
Yeah, when I hear $96,000 in day one, I can put an extra $3.60 in year one.
Listen, when you guys put your pants on in the morning and you put a belt on, do you leave the belt super loose so your pants fall off?
Well, the analogy I use is a little different.
You put your belt, you tighten your belt so that the pants stay up, right? So that's how we build policies. We build them to fit your waist today. Now, in the future, maybe your waist gets a little bigger. Hey, there are really good food. There's good food out there, and then maybe you start running and your belt needs to be tightened. Like, let's build the policy to fit the waist today. Why are we building policies and then making pants and wearing our belts so that the pants just fall off, and you got to walk around with your, come on, I remember this from the 90s, man. You walk around with your hand on your pants, holding them up. Like, that's not why they made belts.
And the bottoms are this big too.
Joe, let's do a quick role play. You be the person calling and asking if I can design a policy that allows you to put $5 in or $2,000. Let's do it.
You want me to do it? What's going on?
Hello, Joe. What can I help you with?
I want a policy.
Well, no, I mean, what I ask people all the time when they ask me this question is I say, okay, so when you book a flight and you're going to fly across the country or to some, maybe you're going to Cancun, who knows where you're going. Do you buy one seat or do you buy 6 or 7 seats? Well, no, I only buy one seat. Well, then why in the world would you waste the money on buying all this extra room that you're not going to use in your policy? Because that's what you're doing, buy extra seats on the plane. And it doesn't make sense to buy all these extra seats unless you really want the room.
But that's not what the agent is telling them, Craig. Hey, what happens
if I'm a travel agent? Yeah, if I'm the travel agent, I'm going to get my bonus because I sold 6 seats today instead of 1.
So that's why I tell people, that's why they need to come to us at the Money Multiplier, because we're number 1.
Woo-hoo.
So,
All
yeah.
right. I think we beat that one to death.
We have a couple more questions kind of like on the same topic. So if I open a second or third policy, is the minimum still 10 times my age?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
I would
then,
just add one comment to that, though.
yeah, we can.
I got a lot of comments to that.
I think that's
you know where we're going. You know where we're going with this one. But if you're opening your second or third policy, you should now know the question is going to be flipped of how much can I put in.
Yeah, I
Because
don't even think you're going to
second.
that.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I don't even think you're gonna think in 10 times my age if this is your second policy.
Because by then you should see how it's working, and the fact that especially if you've had some older policies, you put $1 in, you get multiples out. So why would you want to stop doing that? I mean, I honestly, when they're putting me in the gurney, pushing me down the hallway of the hospital, and it's my last few breaths, I'm going to be yelling, make sure you make that last premium payment, because for every dollar it goes in, multiple are coming out. I want to squeeze everything in, that thing gets paid out.
I tell Ariana, just put me in the side of the room and just make sure it goes beep, 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 because every day at that point in time it's going to be like $1 million a day. Beep, beep. Check on me like every 7 days just to make sure you still beep. Okay, we're good.
And then since we've been talking about policies so much, so will the interest rate and the moving of money work the same? I don't know what that was in context to.
Moving of money is velocity. Interest rates don't really mean anything when velocity is involved. Craig?
Well, and we need to get out of thinking about rates. And if you're looking at interest, think about the volume of interest as opposed to the rate of interest. But I'm not quite sure what the question is on this one.
I don't either.
Here's one of the things I think sometimes people get stuck on is, wow, if I have to say take a HELOC at 8%, game's over. I'm not going to do anything. If you're able to take that money at 8% and get it working at 15%, and you're not really doing anything else with it, why not? So we're so focused on the rate sometimes we don't think about that velocity money, the amount of money that we could be generating with that gain. So I don't know if that's
check out the last question, because that clarifies it. He's saying, so
yeah,
will the interest rate and the movement of money work the same with a table rating? The answer is yes. The cost of the only variable there with the table rating is your cost per unit of insurance, like the death benefit, goes up. So if we've got a term rider on there, the cost for the term rider is going to cost more. Whatever death benefit we put to the base, that's going to go up. So it's going to affect the overall access to capital, because you're going to have a higher cost for the death benefit, but it's not going to change the use of the capital or the movement of money at all. It's going to all work identical. And I think like what they were saying, where don't focus so much on the rate, focus on the movement and the volume of money. And if you just constantly use that, it might be even a little less. That's the only downside. But I will say with a table rating, like literally you have to consider, like, if you waited and you're like, oh, you might never be able to get another policy. I had this discussion with somebody yesterday, actually. His wife has insulin-dependent diabetes, and she has an IUL. And he's like, oh, I got to get rid of these IULs. They're out of surrender next year. I said, do not get rid of hers. Max fund hers. And you all know I would never say that about an IUL, but I know for a fact she probably cannot get insurance anywhere else. So by max funding even that IUL, we can try to get as much death benefit. So in this case, with Huckleberry?
Yes, that's right.
Huckleberry Taz. I would definitely do not shy away from the policy because you're table rated. Use the policy and put as much money as you can into it, and focus also on the death benefit, because I don't know what the circumstances that got the table, but just think like next year you could be uninsurable. We all could be uninsurable next year. We're all one incident, one accident, one thing away from an event that would make us uninsurable. So we got to get what we can get while we can get it.
Yeah, Chris, thank you for really going deep into that. Because I mean, that is it. I mean, that is the advice we give too when someone gets table rated. If you have a family and you get table rated and you can get the insurance and you can use it for banking, why does it matter if you have a little bit less efficiency? Because it costs a little bit more risks and insurance. That's why I tell people, like, listen, then if your spouse or a child or someone else that's an insurable interest can get a better rating, yeah, their policy will be more efficient for banking, but you're already protecting your family, like Chris just said. You are getting it when you know you're approved, because you could go and have another incident, another thing, and something change, and you will not be able to get insurance, right? And then where are you? Then you're like, oh man, because I looked at it and I said on my regular standard rating that I looked at, it was 85% efficiency in the first year, or access. And when I got table rated, it changed it to 78%. You're giving it up for that little bit of spread when all the benefits you have from banking. Like, that's the thought process that has to change for folks, right? Like, what are we really doing here with teaching banking?
So we're a minute out. Let's go rapid.
We're gonna rapid fire.
Oh wow, it's 5:29.
Do you have to go through a health screening each time you open a new policy? So that's on the same subject.
Yes, if it's not within the allowable time by the insurance company to use the old medical, which is usually between 6 months and a year.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then first anniversary on a policy coming up. Do I need to change IDO or leave it in paid up additions?
Great question. This is something that comes up all the time with One America. So they send out a letter about the dividend option being changed to the indexed option. Do not do that. Always have your dividends go to paid up additions. Great question.
Okay. And last one, I put our money mentor call in the chat. So Richard is saying, I'm 59 years old. I'm eligible to retire at 60 with a $7,000 pension pre-tax plus 401k is at 300,000. Will this kind of banking benefit me? Examples, please. And that he has no debt too. So I put the mentors call in there, and I don't know if we want to say what his possibilities are.
The answer's absolutely 1,010%. And I don't know what you did, as a job. A 7K pension is pretty good. Sounds like a tier 1 teacher pension, or, I probably got that wrong. But yes, this will benefit you tremendously. A $7,000 a year pension allows you to kind of coast because you get all your basic expenses, or at least most of your basic expenses covered there. $300,000 in the 401k for someone retiring is very low, but you got the pension, so I understand why that's probably low. You want to make sure that you get that 300 working for you in the right way. If you're retiring, do not leave that 300,000 in the stock market right now. That you'll be back to work. You'll just, maybe not, because you can just coast on the $7,000, but don't lose what you've already
Railroad guy.
Railroad.
Railroad. Oh my gosh.
I thought so. 30 and 60 with 7. I'm like, okay, he's married and retired at 60.
Joe, I should just shut my mouth and allow you to talk about this, because Joe, you're an ex-railroader. I mean, and look, now you're a multimillionaire because of this. So talk to Richard here. Richard, book a call with Joe, because he's the next railroader. You guys can talk shop and all that railroad lingo. And
I was waiting for you to finish, because I'm like, wait a minute, Chris, this could be 30 and 60. He might be on the railroad. And sure
I was thinking tier 1 teacher, because I never see $7,000 pensions anymore. And I'm like, that's the old tier 1 teacher.
That's because we don't pay Social Security.
Yeah, you guys get screwed on Social Security.
So
we get tier 1.
I put Joseph's email in the chat, maybe just because he is a fellow railroad guy. So Joseph at chrisnaugle.com.
The only thing I would add to that discussion is, with that 401k, if you don't need that income or the money from that 401k, I'd be using that to transition into a whole life policy from a legacy play, because let's say, God forbid, something happens to you, that 300k gets plopped on to, say, your children's income, which they're probably at some of their highest earning potential right now. If you were transitioning that out of that environment, that taxable environment, your tax rate, into a whole life policy that then gets, sent over tax free, that may be something to look at. So another thing, more of a legacy play.
And I know we're over, but another thing to really consider, this is back when I was an advisor, a really good topic for people retiring and having pensions like that, is when you take your pension, if you haven't already elected it, you're going to get a bunch of options. There's a single option, which pays out the most. Then there's the joint with pop-up, the joint with survivorship. There's all sorts of options, which all diminishes the amount you get per month, but then there's a legacy play to it. So a really smart thing is called pension maximization, and it uses only whole life insurance, or life insurance, I should say, for that matter, where the life insurance then becomes the legacy play, the survivorship play. So you just make sure there's enough death benefit that makes sure that if something should happen to you and your pension ends for your family, the death benefit makes up for that pension. You get the max amount in your pension. And with what we do with the policies, holy crap, now you don't lose any liquidity of your money. You basically get all your money working for you for the rest of it. Joe, just get on the phone with him. There's so many options for someone like that.
But he's not going to lose the pension because if he's married, it goes right to the female. So she loses her half and grabs his.
Okay, even better.
So he's at 5.
He's integrated with Social Security. That's right.
Yeah, he's at 42 and she's at like 25. So
Love
that's
it.
how he comes up to the 7.
All right. Well, we got to wrap this thing. Thanks, everybody. These were great questions. We always go right to the time. We love it.
Jump in the pool. Let's go.
And Jason's going to jump in the pool. I'm gonna shut the green screen off. And
Come on, Craig. The water's warm right now, buddy. Let's go.
All right. Well, hey, everybody. Thanks. We'll talk to you on
Here we go. Jumping in.
Jumping in. Oh, my God.